you will mostly emphasize on the environment as aspect. Your map will show the features which are associated with your subject matter. If you are from population study, all your map will emphasize on population. Okay, so this is called as thematic map. Yeah, because if we are selecting a topic, if we are working on a map, we emphasize on scale. Suppose I am doing a population study for whole India, so I will maintain a scale. So if I even want to show the details of the environment aspect, in that scale it is not possible, isn't it? So that's why in map we emphasize on a particular theme. That's why I always keep on telling GIS and remote sensing is not actually a subject. It is all about tools and techniques. Now you have to know how to use the tools and techniques in your subject matter, so that finally you can have the output as a map. Okay, so the theme of map keep on changing. Every one of us prepare map based on our particular theme. As I am very much focused on the disaster based work, I basically do disaster based studies. So most of my map I will emphasize only on the disasters. Okay, so that is called a selected phenomena. We just emphasize on a particular phenomena, and what we show in a map, we basically show their spatial distribution. You can take any topic you want and you can just relate. You can, if you will go deeper into it, suppose any topic you take, suppose I am taking the topic of groundwater, underground water. Okay, so you just take any map. If you want to represent underground water, what you are actually doing, you are trying to show how these are distributed. Okay, so this is another characteristic of map. We basically focus on a selected phenomena and we basically show the spatial distribution. Yeah. Now the question is, why do we make map? Why maps are trending so much? Now there are so many mapping companies, like we have Google Map, we have Here Map, we have TomTom, we have OSM. There are so many companies coming up and they're emphasizing on making map. All this map, you might have heard about these brands. Google Map, you all are aware of. You people might not be aware of Here and TomTom. These are also rising like anything. Okay, so lot of companies are coming up which are dealing with map. So there must be certain speciality, right? So now the question is, why do we make map? So the first answer is to represent a larger area that we can see. Okay, suppose Sarthak is from architecture. So in his studies, basically he will represent the things that he can see, isn't it? He will plan something, he will plan a society, he will draft map for an area which he can see clearly. Okay, so the first reason of making map is to show the things that we can see. Suppose I can see this room, I can map it out. I can map it out like my room is like this. I have two windows. I have a wall over here. I have something over here. Okay, this I can see. So the first reason for making map is to show a larger area that we can see. Second is, which is most important, that is, and this is why remote sensing is trending so much, to show a phenomena process we cannot see with our eyes. Okay, like sitting at your home, you can do study of any place. Okay, suppose you want to work on Antarctica, even that is also possible. We have images, we have the satellite images. You can take the image and you can make the you can work on it. So this is the reason why remote sensing and GIS is trending so much. We can show the phenomena process that we cannot see with our eyes. The third is to present information concisely. Okay, another very interesting reason for making map is to show the information concisely. Now what is showing information concisely? Suppose I want to show the population of Delhi. Okay, so how will I show that? What I will do, I will just use a scale. Suppose I will use the dot method, where I will say one dot is representing 1,000 people. So obviously if I'm putting 10 dot means it is 10,000. So how I'm doing? I'm concising, I'm shrinking the information. Okay, this is called as, for this we maintain a scale. Okay, so this is another reason why we make map. Suppose you, for concisely, we can also represent like we want to make the road map of whole India. So what I will do, I will just use a scale that 1 inch road on map is representing 10 kilometer on ground. So obviously 10 inch will mean 10 into 10, right? So in map we can shrink the things. In that way we can represent the things as it is. Next is to show spatial relationship. This is also very interesting thing, and this is possible only with GIS. Manually you cannot show relationship. Okay, relationship like I want to show the relationship of COVID cases and the area. Like for whole Delhi, I want to see where are the maximum COVID cases occurred, or maximum loss we have, loss incurred by this COVID cases. So I can show two things together. One I will have the map of Delhi, then I can see where the clusters are. Okay, and this is only possible in GIS, because in GIS we can show multiple layers together. Okay, so these are the reason why do we make map, and making map on GIS is very much it's actually very much feasible, and it makes the work easier, because in GIS we can show the features as it is. Okay, suppose you are working on national park, all the national park of India, you can show exactly where that national park is located. Okay, so the biggest benefit of doing mapping in GIS is GIS can represent the things as it is in the reality. Okay, so these are the reason why do we make map. And you people are welcome into this. I'm welcoming you to this interesting field. It's really very interesting, it's really very amazing. Even let me tell you, today we were doing a work, and it was really very interesting. In the classroom itself we were trying to show the migration to Delhi, and we found out some of the districts like in we just saw, we went through the census report, and we found that in Delhi maximum migrants are from UP and Bihar. Okay, so what we are trying to show, even I think by tomorrow we will complete the map. We are trying to show the districts from where most of the like the districts where maximum people are coming to Delhi in migration, and we will show this using a flow diagram. Even I will show you people also. Okay, like the Bulandshahr, I think that is the district having maximum in migration. So we will be showing with symbology the district having maximum, and the like range wise. Okay, so many interesting things we can do with GIS to show the features, to show the process, to show the phenomena as it is. The biggest benefit is in GIS we can show it as it is. However it is in the reality, we can show in the map exactly. Okay, so these are the reason why we make maps. This is some kind of pictorial definition. This is to represent a larger area. This is to show what we cannot see with our eyes. This is to show the information concisely. Like here we have used some ranges, and the range we have highlighted in the map. Okay, this is to show relationship. You can show the relationship between, as I told, COVID cases and the clusterings, where maximum clusterings are happening. Even when we will be when we will start our work, you people can think about such topic. Then I will guide you. I can help you as how much I can. Okay. So while doing the course, bring some topic in your mind, and we will solve that topic in the class. Okay, so this will help you a lot to learn more. Otherwise, just following the syllabus is not interesting. Okay, I will obviously I will be completing the syllabus, but try to bring some topic and I will help you out. Okay, now the question is, how do we read map? So a person who can read map can obviously make map also. So as we are into the mapping field, we should be aware of its parameters and how to make the map visually attractive and how to make the map easy to understand. Okay, whenever you are making a map, always remember that, always assume that your map is being read by a layman. Okay, so make the map as simple as possible and even very attractive. Even the mapping is also called as cartography. Cartography is the art of map making, because in this course you will be learning so many things. Even I will be teaching a portion of physics also. We will be dealing with electromagnetic waves. We will be dealing with the waves, basically which wavelength we have to use for which kind of work. So you have to incorporate all this scientific technique, yet you have to use the art of making the map attractive. Okay, so how can you make the map attractive? You must put some parameters so that it will be easy for you to read the map. So which particular things you should focus while making a map? First is, as I told, maps are selective view of reality. As I told at the very first, in a particular map, we are basically focusing on something selective. If you are from environment science background, you will be emphasizing on the environment aspect. If you are from geography, your map will mostly show the man-environment relationship. Either you will be showing the land use, land cover, then you will show how it is changing, how the forest has been converted into settlement, what is its impact on the people, on the local livelihood. Okay, so every subject matter show or highlight certain selective things. Okay, but when we are doing mapping, the selective things or the selective features should be shown in such a way that it can actually symbolize the reality. Okay, so for that, for we should be very much clear with the scale. Okay, then we should be very much clear with the symbolization. It seems to be very easy, but while practically doing the work, we generally make lot of mistakes. The symbology part, even I've seen many people taking this as granted. They generally ignore the symbology part, but I feel symbolization is very important. A good mapper always know when to use which kind of symbology to use in which kind of word. Okay, so symbolization is also very important. Then, which is the base of mapping, is projection followed by coordinate system and datum. Okay, so coming to the very first, map scale. Okay, so whenever you are doing a work, you should be aware on what scale you have to do the work. Okay, so scale is basically the ratio on the map and on the ground. Okay, what is the ratio you are maintaining? Suppose I want to map this room, so I will use a ratio like 1 centimeter on map is representing 1 feet on the ground. Okay, so if I have a table of 3 feet, so I will show this in just 3 centimeter. This is called as using scale. Okay, scale is again dependent on symbology. The symbology is dependent on scale. Suppose you get the work to find out the area of each and every river of India. Okay, so you cannot do the work keeping whole India together. It is not possible. Why? Because you have to make area polygon. Suppose, for example, if I am making, okay, if I want to find out area of Yamuna, I cannot make it like this. It won't give me the area. I have to make the Yamuna as it is in polygon. Okay, and polygon I cannot use for the whole Delhi. So Delhi though we can make, but for India if we are working, I want to know the area covered by each river. Then I have to divide India into smaller grids, and I have to maintain a large scale map. Okay, what is large scale and what is small scale? Let me tell. Okay, so the first thing is the definition of scale is it is the ratio on the map and on the ground. Scale is always a fraction. Okay, scale is always in a fraction. Large area covered means larger denominator. Okay, and larger denominator means smaller fraction. What is it? I'm explaining. Look, there are two examples of map. The left one is the small scale and the right one is the large scale. Okay, in small scale, what can you see? Small scale means larger area. If I want to show a map of rivers of India, I generally have to use a small scale. Okay, small scale means I'm taking the whole India. I'm showing the whole India. But when I'm taking a small scale, how will I show the features? For the rivers, I will just use line. Okay, but what was my topic? My topic was to get the area. And I cannot get the area with lines. Okay, for that I have to use a large scale. I have to divide India into smaller grids. Okay, suppose for example, for whole India, suppose I took the scale of one unit on map is representing suppose 500 kilometer. Okay, so I'm taking that this is 1 unit, 2 unit in this way. 500 unit will represent whole India. This is a very small scale. Very small. Every feature I will show in very small. The rivers I will show in line. The road I will show in line. The settlement I will show in point. Right? But if I need to find out the area of each of the river, area of each of the road, I have to divide the scale into different parts. Okay, so suppose I will divide it by 12. I will I will have to whatever data I will get, whatever x I will get. So I will divide whole India in 12 parts following that particular value. Okay, then I will have 12 map. I have to create 12 map to cover this whole India. 12 I just told randomly. This we have to actually analyze or actually find out based on our application. Okay, so this is called a scale. Scale again depends on the purpose of our work. Like in this case, the purpose is to get the area of river. If I was just given the work to show the rivers of India, then this scale was okay, right? So scale determines lot of things. Scale determines the purpose of work. Scale determines the kind of feature you are trying to show, right? So this is called a scale. And in scale, always remember this concept because this seems to be confusing sometimes. Okay, in scale, always remember the concept. Small scale means larger area. Large scale means smaller area. Always remember this. Okay, don't forget. It seems to be a little confusing. But small, always remember like this. If I am showing features in a very small manner means what? I am taking a large area. And if I am trying to show the features in detailed manner, means I'm taking a large scale. I'm showing the things in a large way. So it is always the contradictory. Small scale, large area, large scale, small area. Okay. Now map scale, in if we are trying to show the scale in map, either we can use this graphic method. This is the graphic method. Okay. Either you can use verbally. Verbally you can write 1 inch equal to 10 miles. 1 centimeter in map equals to 10 kilometer in this way. Or you can use representative fraction. It means 1 is to 24,000 means 1 unit on map is representing 24 unit on ground. Right? So this is how we can show scale in a map. Next is symbolization. As I told, it is a very important part, but people do or generally use this, take this as granted and quite ignore the concept. Okay. So symbolization means how we are representing the features. So symbol basically means the code. Okay. We are using some kind of code. Basically, we can use either point, line, and area. Okay. Coming to this point symbol, every point count as one occurrence. 1 point will symbolize a particular thing. 2 point will symbolize two similar kind of thing. So what is point doing? Point is trying to show, 1 point is trying to show one occurrence. Okay. Point can be used both to show qualitative value or quantitative. Qualitative means it basically, when do we use qualitative? When we show some kind of location, some kind of feature. And quantitative is when we show some kind of distribution. For example, let me show you. In this map, the point has been used to show location. Like this is picnic area, this is camping, this is wheelchair, like that. Okay, so just a minute. Okay, so in this case, what the point is doing, it is showing some kind of location. Now point can also be used to show some kind of quantity. Here what we are emphasizing, we are emphasizing quality, that this is picnic, this is this is that, right? So this is basically showing the quality. Point can also be used to show some kind of quantity. Like as I told, in this map, what we are trying to show, we are showing that 1 dot is equal to this much of people. 1 dot means 1000. So 10 dot means 10,000, right? So you can use point both to show quality as well as quantity. Now, whenever you are getting a data, you should be able to decide which symbology you should use. Let me explain the line and polygon. Then whenever you are getting a data, you should be first of all able to understand, able to decide which symbology will suit your word. Okay. So first coming to the point, if you are getting some data and if you just want to show location, suppose you want to show the tourist spot of India, then you can use point as a quality. You can just symbolize the tourist spot, like these are the tourist spot in India. Suppose you want to show the number of, or I can say, if you are just using some kind of quantity along with it, like we can even do some kind of, suitability. Like we want to show like which are the tourist places having maximum facilities. So now we are having some kind of quantity along with the quality. So we can again use the same thing, same point symbol both to show the quality as well as the quantity too. Okay, so point can be used both to show qualitative information as well as quantitative information. Okay, next is line. So previously line was used, it was taken as granted. Mostly line were used to show borders or roads. Okay, but later on line was used, the line feature was started being used as isoline. Isolines means line joining the equal same values. Okay, then followed by flow line map. Even flow line map can also be created by line features. Okay, so these is example of line, like it is showing the borders and roads. Okay, now this is isoline. Isoline is basically showing the contours. Contours means the places joining same value. Suppose this particular place has got same height, so it can be shown with one contour. Suppose this area contains same height, so it is being shown with another contour. So contours are, or isolines are, the lines used to show places having same kind of value. Here contours are used to show height, isobars are used to show pressure, isotherms are used to show temperature, right? So line feature can also be used to show isolines. If you are trying to show the places having same kind of thing. Suppose you are trying to show the hotspots. Okay, so or some kind of species. Suppose I'm trying to show the clustering of tigers. So I will make a isoline around Sundarban, around Sariska and Ranthambore. Both I can take because they are nearby. I can take the Jim Corbett area. So I can show the lines to show the species of tigers found in India. Okay, so line can be used to show lines and borders, to show isolines, and it can also be used to show flow line. This is what we are doing now. We are trying to show migration of people to Delhi. So here what we are using some kind of quantity. Suppose this is an example of flow line where deportation flow is being shown in different centuries. Okay, so in the 15th, 16th, we can see the lines are very thin when the data increased. So when the flow increased, it is quite broader. In the 18th century, we can see it is even very a bit broader, more broader, and then again shrink. So this can be used to show flow. I will be teaching you people how to use this flow line map. This can be used a lot for transportation work. Like if you have though even we are trying. Sarthak, I just wanted to ask you, can you get the traffic data of Delhi? Do you have any source? As your guide is also in this field.
Ma'am, traffic data of Delhi. Ma'am, there are many surveys and all these reports. I'll get you the direct website of that. I'll send
Because
you.
today, because what I was thinking in the class today, we actually started with making a traffic flow diagram. Like what we thought of doing, we wanted to get the traffic flow, an average traffic flow data from CP. Like from
Yes, sir.
CP, what is the vehicular movement towards west,
Mm-hmm.
toward east, and all that places. And then we
Yes.
wanted to see, like with this flow diagram, we wanted to create the flow line. Then we can
Okay.
find out like from CP which is in towards which direction the maximum transportation movement is there. But we tried to find on internet, we couldn't get the data actually. So if you have any idea, do let me know. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. I will.
Yeah.
I will.
When your the sir is from that field only, na, maybe he
Yes, sir.
can guide us better.
Yes.
Okay, so do remember it. Then in this class only I will teach even how to make that. If the data we will get, then I will tell. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can show in this way because today we were actually working on this only. We first of all thought of making a flow line traffic vehicular flow map. Like we wanted to see from CP which direction the transportation is maximum. So we wanted to show in this way. Okay, then we didn't got the data, so we shifted to migration. And now we are doing the work. We will make flow line from the districts where maximum migration are there towards Delhi. Okay, so this kind of work can also be done. So with line, you can see, you can show borders and roads, you can show isolines, you can show flow line. Okay. Now coming to area. Area means polygon. So polygon means each territory has a one value. Okay, in polygon also we can show the We can show difference in kind as well as difference in value. Difference in kind means when we are showing something qualitatively, and difference is value means when we are showing something quantitatively. Okay, like for example, like in this map, there is no value, but we know that in these places the Gore tribal people reside. Like in Delhi also, we have a general idea that in Delhi, towards east side, you will find people from UP and Bihar. Most of the people are from UP. There's a generalized view we can make. In towards southwest, towards south, we can see around the CR Park, there's a clustering of Bengali people. In the west, we can see mostly the people from Haryana. In towards north, we can also find people from Haryana. Okay, so we can make some generalized view, right? In this also the same kind of thing has been shown. So if you don't have any quantity but you have a qualitative information, okay, yeah, in this thing, in this places I know this kind of things are found. So this is when we are using the area feature to show some kind of quality, right? It can also be shown to like sorry, this is also symbolizing the quality. Like we have a information that in Australia mostly the Protestant, इधर से आना था, but no, ऐसा मत आओ एकदम से. Okay, sorry. So in, yeah, so this is also showing some kind of quality. Okay, like in this particular area we have a information. Okay, this is showing quantity. Okay, like I have some quantity now. Like I have a information that in these places more than 70% people are into the primary activity. Here we can have the people less than 10% people are in primary activity. So in this way, if you have some quantity, so that means we can use the polygon or area feature both to show quantitative value as well as qualitative value. Okay, so this we will do, this kind of map we will create. Cartograms can also be used. Cartogram are basically, here we use number as well as we also use the dimensions. Okay, so polygon features can be used both to show qualitative information as well as quantitative information. Okay, so these are the basic things that we show in a map, and we should have the knowledge how to show these things. Like whenever you have a data, you should be able to decide which symbol you have to use, and symbols are dependent on the scale. If you are doing the map in a large scale, the symbol will change, right? So if suppose for example, if you are showing the settlements of your village, you will use polygon. You can show each and every house. On the contrary means, your village means what? It is a very large scale. On the contrary, if you are given the work to show the settlements of India, the symbology will change. Now you have to use point. You cannot use polygon, right? So these are the basic things that we need to be very much clear while we are going for mapping. Okay. So now coming to the next very important part of mapping, that is projection. We basically will deal with three concepts. One is projection. Now there's coordinate system, and then we have the data. Okay, data, let me just get the globe. Okay, so look, visible. Visible. So look, what is projection? Projection is the technique of converting this 3D into 2D. Okay. The biggest, problem with us is that our earth is round. It is 3 dimension. And in mapping, what we are emphasizing, we have to show this 3D into 2D. Unless and until you are bringing this 3D into 2D, you cannot do the mapping. Okay, now you might be thinking why. We can do, isn't it? But we cannot actually. Look, even if we don't have a map, even the navigation is also not possible without a map. Let me tell you how. Suppose I want to fly from Russia to Antarctica. Okay. And let me tell you how the navigation works. They follow a particular angle. They follow angle. This is called as loxodrome. Okay, I'm just taking the navigation example. So if I want to show the angle from Russia to Antarctica in 3D, it cannot work. Just make a line from here and then just open it up. The line will be curved in this way. Or if I will just make a line like this, if I then open it up, it will be a curve like this. In curve, we cannot make proper angles. So in 3 dimension, we cannot show the spatial distribution. We have to anyhow bring this 3D into 2D. And we cannot do this randomly. Randomly means I just took a plain paper and I'm drawing USA, I'm drawing India. No. We should have proper angle, proper distance. Without that, it is not possible. Okay. So for that, there has been like, if you'll ever read the history of mapping, you will come to know how hard it was. The ancient mappers, they had a very hectic time to decide how to bring this 3D into 2D. Okay, for that the concept of map projection was taken. What is map projection? Map projection is the technique of converting this 3D into 2D. And doing that is not possible. It's not so easy. So for that reason, what we started using, we use some developable surfaces. Okay, we use some developable surfaces like cone, like cylinder, like plain paper. Okay, first coming to cone. So what was done, this is the earth surface. First of all, we divided this into 2 parts. Okay, and we assume that it is 0 degree. It is 0 degree. Okay, 2 parts. This is called as the southern hemisphere and this is called as northern hemisphere. Okay, this is 0, northern, southern. Okay, it was again divided into 2 parts from here. This way it is called as eastern hemisphere. It is called as western hemisphere. Right? This equator, this is central meridian. Right? Then some angles were drawn. Like I can take 10 degree, 20 degree to divide this into 360. The whole circle is obviously 360. This way we will have 90, 90, 180 and 180, 180, 360. Okay. So this kind of a mass, or Hindi में जिसे हम कहते हैं ढांचा, it has been created. Just assume that this is just a skeleton having this. Let me complete first of all. So these angles were joined like this and it becomes the latitude. As I told, whenever you will join lines in 3 dimension, it will always be curved. Okay, these are the latitudes. These are the latitudes. And from here, taking this as the center now, As I told, this is central meridian. Okay, so taking this as the center, more angles were made like this. This is 10 degree, 20 degree in this way. Okay, so this were again joined in this way. 10 degree, 20 degree, 30 degree in this way. This became the longitude. So just assume now I am having this three dimension with just the skeleton of latitude and longitude, right? Now I am taking a cone. I'm taking a cone and I'm assuming that I have put a light at the center at this point. I put a light at this point, a torch or something, okay? And I'm putting the cone over here, right? So now this is a smaller cone. Just assume that I'm touching this earth. Now if I will just open this cone, okay, I'm opening this cone, and now I will assume that there will be the shadows of this latitude and longitude on this cone. How it will be? Obviously, it will be something like this. Like the shadows. The shadow of latitude will be like this, and the shadow of longitude will be like this. Isn't it? Fine. So now I am assuming I have brought this 3D perfectly in 2D. Suppose now my country is lying somewhere between 10 degree, suppose 20 degree and 30 degree north, and 10 degree and 20 degree east. So I can easily draw my country now, because the each and every grid is exactly how it is in the 3 dimension. Okay, so when we are using a cone to represent this 3D into 2D, means we are using the conical projection. Now some of its disadvantage is that it cannot be used for a large area. Okay, if I want this whole world to be covered in conical projection, is not possible, because cone cannot touch both the poles. You cannot touch both the poles in a cone. So cones are used just to basically cover a particular portion of the earth's surface. Okay, mostly cone is being used for the countries which are already conical shape. India can be very beautifully encrypted in conical projection. I can just make a cone like this, and I can make it touch India. I can make it touch India, and I will lit a light at center. When I will open, the whole India, the area covered by India will be projected in a proper manner in a plain paper. Okay, so this is called as conical projection. So when we are using cone to represent the 3D into 2D, means we are using conical projection. But as I told, there are some disadvantages. It cannot be used for a larger area. For larger area, we use cylinder. Okay, as I have just used cone, in similar manner, I will be using a cylinder, though it is very small paper. So now instead of cone, I am putting a cylinder. Okay, the cylinder I am covering. So almost the whole world I can show. Okay, if I am putting the cylinder in a normal manner, it is called as normal cylindrical projection. Okay, if I am putting the cylinder too much tilted like this, so it will symbolize this two part perfectly. And if I am putting it in this manner, suppose in this manner, both this way, it is called as transverse. This transverse concept is very much used in GIS. Transverse. Okay. Transverse means I am putting the cylinder in this way. In, suppose this way. So you can just assume each and every part will be covered, right? both the cones as well as all the whole world can be represented beautifully in transverse projection. Transverse cylindrical projection. Why I'm using this term, why I'm emphasizing on this term, because in the next part you will come to know its importance, because this is the only way how we can project this 3D into 2D. Okay, so this is called as cylindrical projection. Then we have the plain paper. We can also use directly plain paper. This again used just for a smaller area, basically for the cones. So if I'm putting this plain paper of the cone over the cone, and I'm just letting the light at center, and when I will just open this paper like this, it will appear in this way. All the latitude will be in this way, and the longitude will be shown in this way. It is called as plane paper or zenithal projection. Okay, so this is the way, or this is called as map projection. So map projection are the technique to convert the 3D into 2D. So there are few more techniques of map projection, but we don't have to go deeper into projections, because we have to emphasize more on coordinate system and data. But we should have understanding how to project the 3D into 2D. For that we can use cone, we can use cylinder, we can use plain paper. Okay, so what was projection? It was just how we are bringing this 3D into 2D, right? But in GIS we have to be very precise. For that we need the exact location. For that, even projection also can't help us every time. For that reason, the coordinate system has been incorporated in GIS. Okay, what is coordinate system? You people have already read it in the school time. The coordinate system, or the working in graph paper. This is called as x-axis, and this is called as y-axis. Okay, if you will move towards this way, you will find positive values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in this way, 6, right? Again, if we will move towards this, then we will have it in -1, -2, sorry, -2, then -3, -4, -5, in this way. Okay, so if we will move towards this, towards north, it will be again be positive, like 1, 2, 3, in this way. If we move towards down, it will be -1, -1, -2, in this way, right? Right? So in the school days, we used to we were given task of putting 2 points, like we were giving to put 2 and -2. And how we used to do it? We used to take 2 from here, and suppose 2 and -2 here. So this particular will symbolize 2 and -2. So actually the coordinate system helps us to show two data together, the location of two data together exactly in the graph paper. So in GIS, what we did, we brought this coordinate system and we made it as a base of GIS software. इसको क्या किया गया? GIS सॉफ्टवेयर के पीछे बेस बनाया गया. ठीक है, इसके लिए अगेन क्या कंसेप्ट यूज किया गया? So this is coordinate system. I think it's quite clear. We use the points, we use some values. This way we will be using positive, negative in this way, right? Now In GIS, two type of coordinate system were being used. One is called as geographic coordinate system. Geographic coordinate system. Another is projected coordinate system. Okay. So in geographic coordinate system, obviously we need to have this X and Y. This is X and this is Y. Okay. So now the coordinate system is as it is used to get the location of latitude and longitudes together. So in geographic coordinate system, what is being done? This whole coordinate system is divided into certain angles. Suppose 10 degree, 20 degree, 30 degree in this way. 40 degree, 50 degree in this way. Okay. And this is joined. This is the 10 degree latitude, 20 degree latitude, 30 degree latitude, 40 degree latitude in this way, 50 degree latitude, okay? And taking this as the center, like 10 degree longitude, 20 degree longitude in this way. This again join to get the, or let me use two different colors. 10 degree, 20 degree, 30 degree, it is again joined like this. 10 degree, 20, 40, this. Okay. So suppose I need to get the location of, suppose my study area is between 10 degree to 30 degree north. Okay, I'm just taking the north and east now. This way also you can do, no problem. And suppose it is 20 degree to 30 degree east. How can I do it in this coordinate system? So this is 10 degree to 30 degree. Okay, so my place is somewhere here. Sorry, this is 10, 20, 30. Okay, so my study area is somewhere here, right? And it is 20 to 30, means my study area is basically, this is 10 to 30 and this is 20 to 30. Okay, so my study area is in between this place, right? So we use the coordinate system to get the, to put the exact location. Just a minute. Okay, so this is between, so this is my study area. Okay, now don't get confused with projection and coordinate system. Projection we studied because sometimes what happens in GIS, the things are used together. Okay, suppose I am using the location to show the location of my area. Coordinate system has to be there because the base has been created in such a way. It is actually using the coordinate system only. But sometimes few characteristic of projection are also been taken. Like in GIS we have, even let me show you, I explained now, it is the geographic coordinate system. So if I just sum up a little bit more about the geographic coordinate system, so I can say that here we are using the unit as degree and means as angle. Means as angle. Okay. So in geographic coordinate system, basically the unit as degree is being taken and the means are angle. है ना, हमने angle से बनाया. Here we used angles, right? And in angles, what was the unit? The unit was degree. Okay, so whenever you are using a data, in that data, the coordinate system of that particular data is in degree. So you understand that you have to do the work in geographic coordinate system. Okay, now coming to the projected coordinate system, similarly I will be making this x-axis and y-axis. This is always there whenever we are talking about coordinate system. Okay, so in this case, if I want to get the location of, suppose this is my study area. Okay, so in projected coordinate system, we don't make degree, we don't make angle, we just get the location using distance. Like for example, this is the center line. Suppose I am making some distance like 1000 meters, 2000 meters, like from the center. Okay, 1000 meter, 2000 meter, 3000 meter, 4000 meter, 5000 meter, in this way. Okay, like from the center I am making some distance like this. In this way also we can do 1000 meters, but let me use some different colors. Let me use some different colors. So this is 1000 meters, far from that, 2000 meter, far from that, 3000, 4000, in this way, 5000, 6000, right? Again, taking this as a center, this line as a center. Suppose I'm drawing more, 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. Okay, in this way, from the center, maintaining this distance. Now just see what is the location of my study area here. It will be 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is 2000 and this is 3000, somewhere between this. So I can say, just I'm taking randomly now, so it is somewhere like 2400 meters from the center, right? To what? To, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is neither 3000 nor 4000, it is somewhere 3500 meters. Okay, so from the center, my area, my study area is 2400 to 2500 meters towards what? Towards east. Okay, towards east. Now, if I am following the north, then it is 1, 2. So it is 2002. Suppose 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is not exactly 4. It is 2002. Suppose 3500 meters north. Right? So it is north. So I can get the location of my place using the projected coordinate system using distance. Okay. So if I just sum up, then I would say that if we are trying to get the location using the unit as meters and the means as distance, means we are using the projected coordinate system. Okay, so till now we have learned about projection and we have learned about coordinate system. Projection is all about the technique of converting this 3D into 2D, whereas coordinate system is mainly created for GIS purpose to get the location, to put the exact location of any place. So with projection we just try to transform this 3D into 2D. With coordinate system, basically we use it to get the location of a place. And as I have already told, GIS is all about location. If you are not putting the exact location, suppose you are working on Himalayas, but you are putting the location in America, will your work be feasible? No, it will be totally wrong, isn't it? So GIS is all about location. Unless and until we put the exact location information, our work will never be successful. Okay, so with coordinate system, we basically see how we are getting the location, how we are putting the locational values. Either we can do this using degrees or we can do this using meters or angle and distance. Now, when to use a GCS and when to use a PCS? PCS we basically use when we want to go for further mathematical calculation. As I am getting the location and distance in some unit, meters, so it will help me further to find out area, to create buffer, right? But if you just want to visualize your information, you just want to create a simple map. Suppose you got some point location of the National Park of India and you just want to create a map of it. In that case, you can start with geographic coordinate system. Okay. So till now, I have explained you about map, what are its features. I've told you about all the symbolization, like when to use a point, when to use a line, when to use a polygon. And I've also explained you about projection and coordinate system. Datum I won't explain today. It will be a bit confusing for you people. So today I just highlighted about mapping and what are the parameters, what are the features that must be in mapping. And this coordinate system is very important because when you will go to advanced GIS, okay, because in GIS what we do, we also go for analysis. Like we can find the site suitability of something. Okay, so in that case we have so many layers, and sometimes all the layers are in different coordinate system. So if you want to go for further analysis, sometimes it is not possible. So in that case, coordinate system is very important. It is actually very important. The whole GIS, this is the base of GIS. Okay, so datum I'm not explaining today because it will be a bit confusing for you people. So you now ask me any doubt you have, then do ask me. कुछ पूछना है आप लोगों को तो पूछ लीजिए.
Ma'am, I have a doubt in GCS. Just suppose we have the degrees in north and south, like you have taken degrees in north and east. Then where did the point will come if you are taking north and south?
Yes. So for that, obviously the angles will be made in this way. So
okay.
After 90, it will be 110. As I am taking, I am taking 10 degrees, so it will be 100, 110, 120.
Yes, yes, yes.
Then the angles will be made in this way.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so obviously, and similarly, if you are making from here,
yeah,
in this way.
That I understood. Where it will come exactly? Just a rough view of that.
Okay, let me just make it.
Sure.
So if I am moving towards west, so it will be like this. Is after 90, I will have 100, 110, 120 in this way. Okay.
Actually, ma'am, what we are asking for is through an example, like 10 degrees north and 20 degrees east, something that you explained earlier about locating that black polygon area. That's what we are looking for.
Suppose my study area is somewhere here. How can I find it out, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
that's so obviously it will be somewhere like 110 degree to 130 degree west. It will be west because we are moving in towards the west direction. Okay, and from here, obviously it will be 10 degree, 20 degree. But from this way, we have to again make it 10 degree. Sorry, it will be 10 degree, 110 to 100, suppose 30 degree, it will be north. No doubt north. But when we are making the angles, taking this as the center, we have to highlight it in this way. Okay, in green color. So 10 degree, 20 degree in this way. But it will be east this time. You have to use east. Okay, so when we are taking the things from here, center from here, so from center meridian it will be 10 degree, 20 degree towards west and east. But when we are making the angles in this way, as we are completing the circle, it will be 100 after 100. So it will be 110 to 130 degree north, and it will be 30 to 50 or 40 degree west.
Okay, ma'am, I
Okay.
got
So,
it. Yes.
but in this case, it will a little bit differ in projected coordinate system. Here the value will be in minus, in negative,
Okay, in distance
because we are
case.
using distance. Okay, so this way it will be minus 1000, minus 2000, because from this z value, where because we are maintaining distance, so it will be negative in this way.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
So
Yes.
when we are using projected coordinate system to study west and southern hemisphere, in both the cases it will be minus. But yes, there is another technique to convert the whole data in positive, and that is called as false easting, false northing. That I will explain. Otherwise, if you are using projected coordinate system